What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Finance 101. For today's video, we're going to be going over what is a emergency fund. So yes, everyone will probably wondering what is a emergency fund. Truth is, everyone should have a emergency fund. This is probably going to be something that you want done even before you begin investing into the markets. The biggest reason why everyone needs a emergency fund is basically, as the title says, emergency reasons, or is simply because for emergencies. So say, for example, if your bank account balance had like 10 bucks in it, if your checkings account had only 10 bucks, and if you had a emergency that happened the next day, say for example, like your AC went out, just so your air conditioning is all gone. So and then if your air conditioning is gone, you're gonna obviously be in an emergency situation. So then what do you have to do? So then you have to pull money from somewhere. So you have to pull money from somewhere in order to get your AC fixed. And then a lot of the times what people do is they will just put that onto their credit card, which is the wrong thing to do. You do not want to put things like that onto your credit card account, because if you do that, then more likely than not, you're going to be going into debt a whole lot more. So that's something you got to watch out for. You always want to have an emergency fund. We're going to be going over how much you're going to be needing in just a little bit inside your emergency fund. So that we'll come back to in just a second. But yes, if somebody had an emergency with their AC, they would pull money from their credit card account, and then they would put that toward their AC to get it fixed. And a lot of times it's not something cheap. It's definitely something really, really expensive. You can bet that you're going to be paying something along the thousands to get that fixed. So definitely something to watch out for. So then what do we do? So emergency fund, going back into it, what I typically do is I separate my bank accounts into different segments. So say for example, of course, we have our main checkings account. Just write that in. Checkings account is right there. And then we're going to have a savings account. Now these two right here are going to be your basics in terms of accounts along the way. And as you continue to stay with the channel, we're going to be going over all the different accounts that you could have depending on your situation and whatnot. But basically, you have these two accounts. Now, another account you should open up is going to be an account for emergency. So I have a third account, and I labeled it emergency. Now, inside this emergency account, they basically say you want to keep about 3 to 6 months of expenses inside this account. So let's just say, for example, if your monthly expenses were, say for example, 2,500 bucks, then you basically want to keep anywhere between 7,500 to 15,000 inside your emergency account. Let me just do this real quick. So yes, this is how much you should be keeping inside your emergency account at all times. And a big thing that you want to make sure about is that you're keeping this money inside of a high yield savings account. High yield savings. The reason being is because this is obviously a ton of cash you got right there. Now, if it's just sitting in there inside your emergency account, then it's simply just going to be eaten away by inflation by about 3% every year on average. So what you want to do is you want to put this into a high yield savings account, because what this does is that your money that is inside this account will actually appreciate by, say for example, 4 to 5%. So then that will basically hedge against inflation. So then you can bet that instead of this amount here being eaten away by 3% by inflation, it's actually going to be growing by anywhere between 1 to 2%, depending on what type of high yield savings account you have. This is how much it's going to be growing by. So that is why you want to keep this amount inside your emergency fund. Obviously, getting up to 15,000 is quite a bit. My rule of thumb that I would probably do is, if I'm single, then I'm going to lean more towards this side. But if I do have a family, a lot more people, a lot more risk that I have to consider, then I'm going to be closer on this side of the spectrum. But ultimately, it comes down to whatever you feel is the best for you. This is a situation that I'm in right now, so I personally tend to keep less money inside my emergency fund and rather put the rest of the money towards investing. So that's kind of how I run my whole system. But yes, so now let's just say, for example, your AC breaks again. This is our air conditioner. And this is going to be our emergency fund that is going to have, say, for example, $10,000 in here. Side up for emergency. So now, yeah, if something happens here to our AC, instead of pulling money from a credit card, what we could do is just say, for example, pull about 3,500 bucks here and then put that towards our AC and get that fixed and not have to worry about adding more debt into our credit card here. Bad, bad, bad. You do not want to pile up money inside your credit card. Ultimately, you want to get to a point where you're paying off your credit cards every single month. So yes, this is a pretty good scenario on why you must have an emergency fund. This is probably going to be very, very, if not the highest thing on your financial priority list. So definitely make sure you have an emergency fund. If you all had any questions, write them down below. Subscribe to this channel. We will be putting out content every single week. Currently have 2 subscribers, pretty sad, but I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to grow this up to into the thousands. So subscribe, ask away your questions, and I will see you all for the next one. Thank you for watching.